Hello everyone. Hopefully this is working right now. So welcome to the championship tournament day 4. I'm your caster Invisible Joe, and joined by me is Sin. And honestly, Sin, yesterday was not exactly the best luck for us, is it?
No, it wasn't. Yesterday, all three of the commentators ran into a lot of technical difficulties, had issues with your mic. I just got sick, and then Nyashi's electricity completely died out.
Yep.
So
Hopefully today will be better. But yeah, for those of you who weren't here today, let me refresh what happened. Is that I was ready to start around 8:30, but then my mic was having issues. I could not connect it, and I could not find a working headphone, and it took me near an hour. And meanwhile, at the same time, Sin's Wi-Fi died on her, so she had to try and fix it while using data. And then while we managed to finally figure it out, Nyashi came in, but Nyashi had the worst technical difficulty as he had a massive blackout then, and his power just completely died on him. So yeah, yesterday definitely not the best of things happened here.
yep.
Yeah, hopefully things will be better. As hold on, let me yeah, I had to close the door for a bit. Anyway, so with things sorted out, let's head into the stream. Let me cut everyone in. So, hello NTT, hello ECH. Let's head into it straight away, as today we're going to be continuing on between the top 16 teams. The difference here, though, is that yesterday we've gone through the teams that are moving up to 2-0 and the teams dropping down to 1-1. And today we are going to be fighting through the teams between 0-1 to see who goes at 1-1 and who goes at 0-2.
Mm-hmm.
So here's back of the band pick rules as a reminder, because how the band picks work in this tournament is different. It's different than what we normally see in like Koa. It's different from Koa. So the first round they only banned 2 characters, and second round we have free. It's just different than what we normally have. So Sin, wanna go ahead and introduce to everyone who is in WB?
Alright, for WB, short for Wandering Band, we have Carl, SF Daichi, Nakuho, Yui Chongwa, Iwa, Lord, and Itsu.
Yep. And moving on to together, we have Hibari, GGW's NYX, Wanfu, AG Toresu, BHW, PTLE, and Yosei, and they are some familiar names for me because they actually participated in my tournament. So let's skip ahead in time here so we won't be stuck here for the whole night. So we're going to be heading in straight away. And ever seeing town once again with Priestess gone and then First Officer and Aeroplanist first. So Sin, it seems to me that lots of teams in this tournament do indeed prefer the Ever Sleeping Town comparingly.
Ever Sleeping Town has always been a fan favorite with the Identity V community, though, especially because of how mostly balanced it is, while also being a larger map than Red Church.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Ever Sleeping Town more balanced, I guess more popular. In competitive IDV, this is also one of where the more famous or infamous seems to happen. So now that we're at it, let's see here. We have Puppeteer and Aeroplanist to line this up. This is actually a very solid team comp against both the Goatman and the Hula Baloo, depending on who Trung Moy here wants to play, because we have the Aeroplanist who does counter the Hula Baloo, Puppeteer that counters both, and Antiquarian that can work around with both as well. So let's see what does Trung Moy has to play, because we actually have already seen that they don't necessarily need to pick the Goatman or the Hula Baloo. We've actually seen Breaking Wheel being pulled out in BO1, and it did actually achieve a decent result here.
Yes, but again, we do have to remember that comfort picks or meta picks will be a big difference considering these are dropout matches. Whoever loses these matchups will be eliminated from the
Not
tournament.
not yet, Sin, not yet, because
No,
it's three losses.
this
It's
is their 0-1. This is their 0-1. They'll be on 0-2,
yeah.
meaning they won't have any more points.
No,
No?
no, 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 no. No, you're still in. I think you only need to hit 0-3 before you're out. Like 3 losses before you're out.
Oh, maybe I misread the. I misread the bracket. Whoops.
Yeah. Like just a quick reminder to everyone. Is that you either advance with 3 wins or get eliminated with 3 losses. So whoever loses here is not out for now, but they would be out if they lose the next one after they lose this one as well. But nevertheless, being in a 0-2 position is not what you want, considering you need 3 wins to advance.
Yeah, if you get to that 0-2 position, it'll be much harder to get out after that. You'll have to win. You'll have to play through
You have to win all
another
three matches.
3 matches.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So now that we're at it, let's talk about the shadow pick here. So the shadow, the shadow actually not necessarily the best over here because first of all, Aeroplanist counters it, Puppeteer is workable, Antiquarian is the only one that he can really like remotely chase first. The other two, in theory, works decently. Also, the other thing is that the shadow has gotten a nerf, as we know, is that during endgame or after a person being eliminated, the time it takes to demolish the Ostracons has been reduced massively. Also, the amount of time you have to wait before you can go into demolish is also reduced, meaning the Shadow's field control is much, much weaker than before. So we'll have to see how well does Trongmoy plays this round.
And also, if we're looking at the personas, we can see that 3 of them have Flywheel, minus the first officer who prefers to bring Borrowed Time and Tide over the other utility. It seems they were prepared in case they came up against the Goatman because the Aeroplanist has Tide as well.
So wait. Let me just post it again. So yeah, while we're at it, let's see though. One thing that I'm very concerned, like 2 people without borrowed time, and borrowed time is really a trait that you would want against the shadow because the shadow is very like if you have no borrowed time against the shadow, this may backfire massively. But let's see though, as we're gonna be hopping into the game straight away with your caster Sin and Invisible Jung. Right off the bat, we can see that Trongmoy is wandering around here and also already separated Yidra, wanting to locate someone, but currently just wandering around the field because that's how the Shadow plays. As early game, they just do a more slower approach with field control.
Yeah, right now they're trying to stably locate and establish their presence, especially with the Ostracons, as well as disturb ciphers with the main body, and then find their target with the shadow itself.
But currently still not being able to locate. I think he's just trying to like chase them into each other. So is able to drop a leech here just to slow the cyber progress down. But in order to commit, ideally the shadow would want to find a target and commit to them soon because field control can only help you so much if you like do not get chased down. But currently this puppeteer is already at 60 corruption level though, so he has to be very careful here because yes, it's able to get the hit though, but the thing is that he's still in like 3/4 of health, so this is not enough. But is able to get and force out another Lewis here. So here Trongmoy here wants to like look backwards and do not give the puppeteer any corruption level. And the puppeteer actually, doing amongst all that like he turned into Lewis 3 times, which is not ideal because it's been one hit and he's down over there, Sin.
Yeah, and now he goes down, and the ciphers are barely done. The cipher with the highest progress is barely reaching 90% as we speak. I think she's gonna chair in hands down one of the worst chairs in this map because of how hard it is to kite to a proper area afterwards.
Yeah, currently because we can see, yeah, this chair is very hard to rebound. Our first officer in the vicinity here uses the Poseidon Watch, unfortunately still gets caught, so that for like a relatively early rescue. And the good news is that he did manage to pull off the rescue, but the bad news is that in theory the puppeteer cannot rebound kite because as we like see the failed flywheel over there. Even if he managed to flywheel away, all the shadow has to do is to leech on them again and then teleport onto them, and then the puppeteer would be in 100 corruption level. Currently, we can see the ciphers
Yeah,
are like only 3 whole ciphers in total, which is not too ideal because the shadow can easily drop Ydra onto them and to slow the ciphers even more.
Yeah, and the thing about the flywheel is, if the Yidra could have timed that right, she could have hit him mid-animation and gotten that to be a terror shock, which would not have, the flywheel would not have had any purpose either way. I think his best option there was to bait the hit and then use flywheel, so at least force the blink out better than that and buy a few more seconds of time.
Well, the aeroplanist is here though, and there is Titanium to work with, so as long as the aeroplanist pulls off the rescue, it will be fine. But he's dangerously high though. But the hunter made a bit of a blunder as he ended up hitting the chair, missing the perfect opportunity to get double down. So that's a missed opportunity right there. But in theory, the puppeteer won't be able to rebound Kite because all you have to do, like with a full presence shadow, is to teleport, leech, teleport, and then get a revelation, and there you have it, 100 corruption, and the puppeteer goes down. So if we look at the field,
Yeah, with the puppeteer going down.
yeah, like if we look at the field right now, currently, the ciphers are not gone by a lot because they took this opportunity to self-heal, which is ideally what they need because right now, if the shadow gets the next down too fast, it'll be impossible for the survivor to reverse from.
Yes, but now the shadow is actually able to target the antiquarian here, which might go down faster, at least faster than aeroplanist and first officer, because of how easy it is for them to utilize their utility to avoid the shadows.
Oh,
Corruption.
yep. But amongst all that, the Antiquarian ended up getting hit, and it was a bit of a missed opportunity because the Antiquarian definitely could have tried and used her swipes to stun the hunter and waste them a certain amount of time, instead going down instantly. But we can see here a very good usage of the jetpack from the aeroplanist, using it to exit out of the Ostracon range, making sure that he does not hit 100 corruption level. But hold on, it's very dangerous here. Oh my goodness, that scared me for a bit. But aeroplane is currently just doing a good job of evading it. But hold on, he ended up running into the Ostracon. I think either he was trying to like hit 100 and clear the corruption, or he just did not like look clearly behind him.
Perhaps he wasn't able to look properly at the where his debris was going and then accidentally stepped into the Ostracon. But now this is disrupting the first officer's cipher progress in middle, and we're seeing that barely any of them are able to decode. The aeroplanist is still wandering around trying to get back to his cipher while the first officer is being chased. This is a lot of pressure slowing down their cipher progress.
Yeah, like currently there's a sort of a trade-off because while the Antiquarian is getting cipher progress, actually the shadow here is actually sort of like wasting their items. But hold on, here they're trying to mind game each other here, but the shadow ends up on top, baiting the aeroplanes into vaulting backwards with the blink, and this is actually a huge victory for the shadow because her managing to get the aeroplanist down without blink means that in endgame she's gonna still have blink to use, and with the blink endgame she can potentially get a person down fast and then get the control onto the gate. Like that's the thing with the shadow, that you want to force out the blink before endgame.
But now we're actually seeing that without being able to even get a hit on either of them, or at least try to prevent the rescue, the cipher just goes popped, and even with another Ostracon down at both gates, he'll have a lot of trouble controlling these two from getting decoded.
Yeah, that was a bit of a missed opportunity when he ended up giving up the free rescue because he was trying too much to control the cipher over there. So this is slowly going to be approaching the end game that I'm talking about because like he can get someone down real quick and blink to get the next person down. So you can see the survivors are not too hurried in decoding the gate as they're carefully positioning to have one person near each gate and one at the center. So gonna go head straight for the aeroplanist, and now the aeroplanist, who has previously been chaired going down. The good news for the survivor is that the Ydra was also at the aeroplanist, so now the shadow have to bring her main body back and it's going to be chasing after the Antiquarian. So the Antiquarian has to be very careful in how she positions herself to not enter blink range.
Yeah, since the Hydra has her blink here now, and she's actually here, but I think the Aeroplanist does have his own self-heal, and while the Antiquarian does go down, he will have enough time to run back to the gate, and since the Shadow is not on the gate where First Officer is at.
Yeah, he won't have enough time, so now getting spotted, now the Shadow can just teleport onto once again. Let's see, 59 corruption levels, still staying alive, and one more flyover, but can he make this count? Unfortunately, no. There goes the blanket, there goes the Aeroplanist down. So we can see that in the long range, the First Officer is going for it, but can he make it though? This is going to be a huge question. It seems that he can make it, and the Aeroplane is having no self-heal, so this is still anybody's game because now Hydra can go after both of these survivors.
Yes, but technically, Hydra still has a lot of her util since it regenerates itself, but look at these survivors. They all have utility that runs out, and even though detention runs out and First Officer still takes a hit, now none of them are able to rescue if either of them get shared.
Yeah, and the thing is that the 40 corruption teleport is back online now, meaning that there's also going to be a very strong teleport incoming, so that's why we see the Antiquarian is standing at the pallet to get the pallets done instantly. So the thing is that someone has to try and make their way to pick up the Aeroplanist, because currently Hydra is not guarding the Aeroplanist, and if he picks it up, everything can still change. But don't forget, this is the insolence the Shadow, meaning that it takes longer to pick up the Aeroplanist on the ground.
So Aeroplanist goes up here, and even unfortunately, the Antiquarian puts down the pallet way too early before the Hydra can even actually teleport, so she doesn't get pallet stunned here. Instead, the Antiquarian goes down.
But if I'm not mistaken, the gate on that side is actually the gate that has been done. So, like, the back gate has already been done, so actually, the two survivors are in no hurry, as all they have to do is to self-heal each other back up, and then they're free to rush the gate, if I'm not mistaken. So, if that's the case, I believe, like, the main issue with this game is that at the end game over there, the Hydra actually wasted some time not really doing anything. Like during the time where the Antiquarian was standing guard at the gate, but hold on, there's still one more chance. Actually, hold on a second, the corruption level, 100 corruption, and Aeroplane comes here to block and ends up failing, so this may still be a free-man elimination after all here, Sin.
Yeah, unfortunately, the Aeroplanist has no choice but to simply leave, otherwise risking getting a 4K instead. So we're actually going to witness a 3K from Chungmoy's Shadow.
Yeah, like, talk about a turn of events. Honestly, I feel like the better thing to do for that point is that when it's clear that one of them got leashed, they should not be running at the same direction at all. They should not be running towards the same direction and split up. And make sure that Hydra will not have a chance to drop someone. But honestly, I have to applaud how the Shadow played that, because the Shadow actually leached onto the Puppeteer, but instead hits the First Officer instead, because that means that he knows that he can once again drop the leech on the First Officer, and with the 40 corruption teleport back ready, he can instantly get the First Officer down from full health. That's a very good usage of the corruption transference there.
Yeah, and then another thing about that is that instead of going out of the gate instantly and taking the tide, the survivors actually decided to heal up for some reason, and this is the same reason why we tell people not to camp the gate when it's a Wuchang, you know?
I do understand why they had to heal, because they were afraid of getting caught. Because like if it's a full presence Shadow, then she can just teleport onto them, and then whoever getting found would not make it. So that one I can sort of understand.
They were, like, as you mentioned before, though, they were at the gate that was already decoded prior to them.
They were afraid of they were probably afraid of getting cut off midway, so they wanted to play it safe. Because if they got found while making it towards the gates, then the Shadow can just teleport onto them. So while we're at it, we're gonna head into the second round, and because there's a 3-man elimination, this means that the pressure is also onto Hibari here to do the same, as the seer's going to be removed, and the survivors are more like calm and composed because they only need a tie here, and they don't really need to do anything too crazy.
Yeah, here we're gonna see them probably go for something more stable and something that can at least guarantee guarantee the tie that they need, if not another win to secure this matchup.
And Bomber, and Bomber is definitely the king of ties, so let's see. We're probably missing, I was about to say they're probably missing an aeroplanist, but having the prisoner here is even more interesting though, considering that yes, prisoner is good for cipher rushing and all, but considering they only need a tie, I would probably expect them to pick something more of like a kiter, like aeroplanist, acrobat, or even patient, than a prisoner, because the prisoner definitely has the risk of getting down too early here, Sin.
The prisoner is definitely a risk in terms of kiting ability, but since they have an embalmer, they can stretch out time that way regardless. As long as they position the spawns correctly, if the embalmer can get the prisoner's mark fast enough before the hunter has the time to down, all that alone can already stall so much time.
So now we're at it, let's think of what will Hibari choose over here, because we actually did see, remember like we got surprised by the breaking wheel yesterday? Maybe we can see something like this, because Ever Seeming Town,
Yup,
speak about the devil, I am the real seer.
It.
I am the real seer, Sin. I foresaw that. Well,
maybe it's all the time traveling we're doing.
Yeah.
Maybe it's interfering with your perception.
Maybe. Well, while we're at it, like I was about to say, breaking wheel is good here because embalmer doesn't really work against the breaking wheel, and prisoner also has the risk of getting down too early. So it's really the antiquarian that's going to be the key here, because the antiquarian can harass the hunter for a bit, but then again, just look at this, Sin. They have 3 flywheel effects, and the issue with having so many flywheel effects is the breaking wheel does not like flywheel because it can negate the pessimistic and also negate the ridicule ability, meaning that the breaking wheel does not like free flywheels at all.
Yeah, he doesn't like 3 flywheels at all, but it's not as if having 3 broken windows or even just 2 more broken windows would have done much for him, considering how many windows there are in Ever Sleeping.
Oh, but we do see that there's an interesting approach with the breaking wheel spawning at the graveyard, because they know that the graveyard is the one place in this map where the breaking wheel is weak at, so he's gonna spawn there to push the survivors more on the outside. So this is a very smart placement from the breaking wheel, considering that he needs to have at least a free man, and the survivors here only needs for a tie, but ideally against a breaking wheel you do not want to go down too fast, or else you could very easily be snowballed over.
Yeah, I think here their top priority now is, because he spawned right next to both of their weak links, Embalmer and Prisoner, I think their priority should be getting a proper rotate off without leaving too many vulnerabilities or weaknesses during their rotations. If they can get this rotation off properly, then they can prevent the breaking wheel from locking onto a target way too early and then downing someone.
Well, we're going to be seeing a prisoner playing around the double 11 straight away, but he has to be very careful. This narrow area is not a good place to kite the breaking wheel over, because we can see there's already 1 spike onto the prisoner, and the prisoner has to be very careful. 1 more spike and we're going to be seeing a human form wheel here, and there goes the second spike, and that is what I was talking about, Sin, because now Iwa here has to evade all these traps, or else he's going to get down very fast into the game here.
Yeah, now it's just mind games with the... Now it's mind games between the stun and between the hit. Unfortunately, the stun actually cancels the attack here, so that cuts off even more time for them to decode.
Yeah, talk about adding salt to the wound. getting caught by the trap over there is already bad, and canceling the attack recovery make things even worse because the ciphers are only like not even 1.5 cipher. So Kirin does Hibari's game here, so he's going to be going out looking to try and harass outside field here, but actually caught the first officer playing hide and seek. So now the first officer comes in and rescue. So, but the good news though for the breaking wheel is that he's able to get the first officer down to a quarter of health, and having full presence, meaning in theory, the prisoner cannot also kite this one out. And there we have it, the blink and the prisoner will go down too.
Yeah, unfortunately, the prisoner was unable to predict that blink, and I think this rescue came a bit too early. The choice to hide there and resulted in him getting a spike and him being forced to actually rescue way earlier than they probably intended.
So now here's the thing though, is that it's already a full presence breaking wheel, and they have no time turner remaining. So they're like, best bet for the survivors over here is to have the Antiquarian rescue and also come and assist with the use of her bamboo stick. Like that's the only real hope over here. But we can see that there's already one spike over here, a second one. Let's see, not able to evade it. So I'm going to be using free swipes onto them. But because someone is nearby, the disarm is not actually going to last for long. So it is not too ideal because here the prisoner cannot get caught by the trap, or else this would be not a good situation at all.
It seems fine though, since that doesn't look like fast pallet breaking to me. So if he can just successfully utilize these pallets, he can actually stall out enough time, at least until Blink comes back. Oh, the trap there. But since the pallet went down, he can loop for a bit more and possibly... Oof.
Yeah, we were about to talk a loop for a bit more, but a very nice trap reticent over there, catching the prisoner. But the good news though, that the prisoner did manage to rebound kite for a bit. So I think for the breaking wheel, he tried to use the human form too much. Maybe he could have just stayed in wheel form and just get 2 spikes and use the pessimistic to take him down. But currently it's still the breaking wheel's game, because we can see that there's still near 1 whole cipher remaining, and Bomber, very nice use of the flywheel effect to evade going down in 1 hit. So the breaking wheel, knowing that the Embalmer cannot be chased, is going to go back out towards the field, looking to hunt down the next survivor he sees, which in this case is going to be the full health Antiquarian.
I think this is actually a good choice to target their one person that's on full health, or at least not on a chip, because none of them can heal chip damage. If any of these people get onto even a chip damage, rescuing will be practically impossible for them. Amazing use of flywheel here, but I think that might have been a bad decision if she takes a hit right now.
I mean, it's still fine considering the later time, but Antiquarian evading that hit as well. This Antiquarian definitely being a very slippery survivor over here, evading all those hits, is gonna get hit, but she definitely bought out enough time for the first officer to be healed in the meantime. And we're actually seeing why flywheel effect counters the breaking wheel, because 2 times the survivors managed to use the flywheel effects to evade the ridicule here and avoid it of getting go down like in 1 hit. Imagine without flywheel effect, we already have a survivor on chair, and the breaking wheel is in position for a game. And oh my goodness, that's a very nice prediction by the breaking wheel, successfully hitting the first officer during using the Poseidon watch here. With the first officer down, this is back into the breaking wheel's game, because he can go out and harass the survivors from decoding.
Yes, but now since neither of them have flywheel, all he needs to do is de-transform around them once his pessimistic is up, and there we go, just snap them down.
Yeah, so the survivors have to think carefully in what they're going to be doing, because the half cipher, I believe, is the one at S pallet, so the survivors' choice are very limited, because Breaking Wheel knows where both of them are, so he can easily get both of them down. Look at this, transform the human form here, he does not have the snap just yet. Get it down here, and then he can just easily switch back into wheel form and charge after the Embalmer, or he can just go for the teleport straight away, because nothing Embalmer can really do but other than dropping this coffin we're seeing here. Flywheel!
Amazing use of flywheel here. Unfortunately, he hits the chair. I think right now, he can force the coffin out at least by threatening the chair.
It's going to play safe, but then again, this is still Breaking Wheel's game, because the thing is, the last cipher is the one near over here, but flywheel effect, very nice.
And flywheel.
But there's still the resistant trap over here, and the Antiquarian no longer has any bamboo sticks. So there she goes down, and the Antiquarian will be dead on chair. So this means that with 2 survivors remaining, this is not going even to be a one-man escape here, Sin, because they're missing half a cipher still with 2 survivors on the field.
Even then, with at most their hopes are on Embalmer putting his coffin onto the dungeon and saving it for then.
But here's the thing, though, is that
he does, yeah.
Like, he has to use the coffin because the Embalmer already expanded his self heal, so that's really his last chance here. And honestly, this is sort of like a slow death situation because now both survivors on the field does not have the self heal. So as soon as any one of them goes down, it will be nearly over because let's see. Yep, the Embalmer's gonna go down.
And there he goes.
Down, and the first officer remains, which the breaking wheel knows where the first officer is. So the officer, like, against the full presence breaking wheel, in theory, he cannot really last for long because all it takes is 1 spike, 1 transform, 1 ridicule, or never mind, doesn't
Yes,
have the
but look at the
ridicule
tram
just
right
yet.
behind them.
I believe the tram stopped over there.
The tram stopped, yeah.
I mean, as a hunter player, that always gives me heart attacks seeing the tram midway.
Yeah, seeing the tram right behind me would have concerned me at the bare minimum.
But anyways, congratulations goes to 2GT for winning, and that's what I was talking about. Breaking Wheel is very viable in this meta because they sort of like reduced his cooldown of transforming, meaning that he's more flexible and his mobility is higher than before. So Breaking Wheel is definitely a threat. Survivors have been prepping too much against the Goatman and the Hula Baloo that a very good Breaking Wheel player can definitely catch them off guard here.
Yeah, a lot of players have already gotten way too distracted with the fast changing metas to actually remember just why Breaking Wheel was so strong in the early days, especially on Eversleeping.
Yup, so there we have it. Congratulations goes to Team 2GT for winning, as they're going to be going back up to the 1-1 bracket. And for WB, things are not looking good for them as they drop to the 0-2 bracket, and 1 more loss from them and they're going to be out. So they have to win all 3 remaining matches, which will be very hard. But while we're at it, we're going to be hopping into the second game straight away. So, we can see ECH is gone. Anyways, while we're at it,
Yeah.
we have the Wolfgang team here with Darius, Silva, Baby Lee, Glugluz, So De Macomb, and Kanki here. And oh my goodness. Yeah, try your best, Sin.
Oh, for Team Faprading, Kanji have Baby T, I think that's Thai, Domes, Akaria, and then that's more Japanese that I cannot read, unfortunately.
Yeah, I apologize. We do not know Japanese and we do not know Thai. The only thing I can read for you is Chinese. Haha. Anyways, these 2 teams are currently 0-1 right now, so let's skip ahead because we definitely do not want things to be too much. So, while we're at it, Sears already got banned. We're seeing Mechanic Antiquarian, so it seems that PPD here wants to play the Cypher Rushing team comp, but we have to keep in reminder that there is still the threat of the potential Breaking Wheel, because Breaking Wheel runs through the Mechanic.
Yeah, the Breaking Wheel does mow down the Mechanic, and because of banning Knight, it's just doesn't seem like it's gonna be typical Goatman Hullabaloo.
Maybe, maybe not, we'll see, because, yeah, but if I'm a Hullabaloo or Ghostman player, I would not ban the Knight necessary, so maybe WG has other ideas, because I do see that the Breaking Wheel does not like the Knight, but I don't think they will go out of their lengths to ban it, but while at it, we do see the Magician being chosen, And yes, I do know that the Magician got buffed, but he's still not the best target or best survivor to select in the first round because they're just other survivors that can provide way more value towards the team comparing to the Magician.
Yeah, compared to every other support character that has enough utility to sustain themselves would probably be a better pick than Magician here, but perhaps this is just comfort pick. I mean, we've seen amazing Magician plays in competitive play before.
Yeah, I'm definitely. So let's see what tricks do they have up their sleeves. As we're going to be waiting for them to select their talents, but probably we'll see the officer with Tide, and maybe it's better to have another person with Tide in this meta. As for WG Wolfgang here like there's just a lot of potential. Like Hula Baloo and Goatman are playable here, and also the Breaking Wheel too. Like I've seen a lot of Breaking Wheel at this tournament, and I love seeing a good Breaking Wheel player. And Eversing Town, as I mentioned, one of the strongest maps for Breaking Wheel indeed.
Yeah, considering how squishy this team compared to what Mechanic needs, it's just questionable whether or not their strategy to Cypher Rush will work, especially against a hunter like Goatman here.
Well, who knows? That's going to be a real question. And oh, hello everyone in the chat. Welcome towards the stream here. And oh, we have Goatman. Yep, Goatman being selected here. The thing is that Goatman against Magician is not the best against Goatman because the issue you're facing is that yes, the illusion can be used to serve the late time for a bit, but you can't exactly like pass through the cages in the meantime, or else the Goatman would know exactly where that you go. So really, the illusion can only waste time, but a very good Goatman player can kind of hunt you down and make sure that he'll still get a hit on you. So the key here is definitely for the Mechanic to survive with her bot.
Yeah, as long as the Mechanic can either properly hide her bot or just make sure it stays alive, they'll be able to do a lot in terms of Cypher even while the first chair is up.
Yep, the Mechanic is going to be key of the game over here. So this is going to be the second game of today with the BO1. So we'll have to see what's going to be happening. In this spot, anyone can be the first chase, and even the first officer can be the first chase. The thing is that all the Goatman has to do is to raise their cage against the first officer, and the first officer would normally be forced to use the pocket watch, because if you see a Goatman raising your hand and you do not use a pocket watch, there will always be the risk of the first officer instantly dropping, or rather the Goatman instantly dropping an enclosure, and then passing through the cage, appearing right behind you and getting a hit in all one fast swoop before the first officer even has a chance to use their watch. So this is something that we should look out of during the game.
Yep, we'll have to see how this first officer decides to counter up against the Goatman's Goatman's ability to counter his cages.
Yeah, but we're going to see the Sodimacom wandering around here trying to locate where the Mechanic, or is that the Mechanic? I cannot see really clearly just now. Oh, Baby T, yeah, it is the Mechanic. So the Mechanic is going to be running away, but we see that he actually did not drop the bot there, his bot just yet, so this may be a bit of a problem here. Like the Mechanic right now is already getting trapped in a very bad spot, but we can see that he actually managed to last out the entire cage because Sodimacom did not give the Mechanic a lot of pressure. Now finally going to be getting the first hit, and if the Mechanic did not drop the cage just yet, then this is a very bad situation for the survivors.
Unfortunately here, instead of successfully getting the bot body block down here, we're actually gonna see the Mechanic be forced to... Yeah, the Mechanic will lose her bot right here because of unfortunate timing with that attempted body block.
So yeah, with that, like the first down is only 1.5 ciphers because the survivors were rotating around early game. And this is a very, very bad situation for the survivors because the point of the Mechanic is a cipher rush, but the mechanic not even dropping out her bot. It's very bad over here. So the first officer is able to pull off the rescue and, just to delay more time here. But back to what I was saying, this is a very bad situation for the survivor. Oh, that's a very good cage over there. Over there, actually blocking off that pallet. That is very good. And even though if Baby T-Man should get that stun, in theory, he should not be able to last for too long. But let's see, can he last out this cage? Because this cage is not well placed enough. But unfortunately, no.
Unfortunately, there's a terror shock.
Yeah, honestly.
Fortunately, that terror shock feeds so much presence to that Goatman, and that will enable him to have a really strong chase on the mechanic again if they decide to still rescue her. But because she has no more utility, unless the first officer is willing to come and give items, or perhaps one of them is willing to swap out their items, mechanic won't have much of a surviving chance here.
Well, we do see the Antiquarian coming into assist, because one of the ways you counter the Goatman is to just assist each other, because that's where Goatman is more weaker against. But how long would this be able to work though? Because currently the Antiquarian cannot exactly help the mechanic. The mechanic is on her own, and unfortunately not being able to last out long. So there we have a mechanic going down. She'll be eliminated with with at least 1.5 cipher remaining. This is not good for the survivors, considering that their whole plan of the mechanic is to have her or rather have her drop the bot with a fast decoding speed. But this did not play out towards the game. They sort of did not play out the function of the mechanic entirely here, Sin.
Mm-hmm. This is what we were mentioning earlier with the mechanic pick being a double-edged sword. The Antiquarian is simply just not enough to keep a mechanic alive compared to other harassers.
But actually just now, those are some very well placed cages. I'll point this out to the audience who were noticing just now, is that he placed a cage that was very narrow towards the pallet, that it blocked off the pallet, and then he passes through the cage and passed back and appeared behind the pallet. That's some very, very skill placement over there, and I think that it would be very good for newer Goatman players to learn. But back into the game here, as we can see, there goes the cipher, and even if the magician gets pulled off, this is very bad, as the first officer is going to be the one getting chased, with his last watch being forced out right now.
Yeah, even though this first officer is relatively safe within the cages because of his pocket watch, it's still gonna be incredibly annoying if he tries to rescue with it now, since the pocket watch itself didn't have much delay. The first officer goes down.
Yeah, honestly, I'll say this. So the McCom is definitely very skilled in his Goatman with how well he used the distance, and with his tricks, such as using the cage and appearing on the other side. That is honestly some very skilled placement of the Goatman cages over there. As now the Antiquarian is going to be dangerous, going to get spotted here. So a very nice disarm, 3 stuns in a row with a 12 second, meaning to just delay more time and not giving the Antiquarian any free rescue. But unfortunately, the Antiquarian is still going to make it towards the chair. So this sort of negates the bad 12 bad game for a bit, I mean.
Yeah, but because of that cage, actually, excellent cage right there. Good awareness of where the survivor will spawn right after being rescued. It prevents the Antiquarian from getting a proper body block off on that rescue.
So now that we're at it, currently the magician is just decoding with his life, wanting to decode all these ciphers as fast as possible, but it's just still too much, because once he's done with this 90% cipher, there's still one whole cipher left, and now the Antiquarian will be forced to rescue, and unless the officer who has no watches remaining can make the kite of the lifetime, this will be very hard. But Sodi McCom did make a bit of an error there, as there were a bit of holes through the cage, allowing the first officer to slide through. But would it be enough for the officer to stay alive is the real question.
No, unfortunately not, and even the officer seems to know this, because the long, narrow pathway from that pallet to the next, or to loop back around, is just simply too much. So instead, what they're planning to do here is have the Antiquarian jump scare here, I think.
Oh, does manage to pull that one
With a
off though.
successful disarm, yeah, this will buy more time, and this will actually be able to allow
Oh.
them to continue to use this pallet. But no, the body block does not connect, and the first officer goes down here.
Yeah, and we can see that Soda McCom will be chairing the first officer closer towards where the magician is, as he knows where the last cipher is. So the magician is definitely on borrowed time over here, because it's not for long before he's gonna get the chase here. As now there we have it, charge straight into the magician here. Magician does have free illusions to work with, but how long will it help him? As the flower effect is going to help him stay alive and last out this entire cage.
Yeah, again, these wands are actually doing quite a lot for him, even if the cage will actually show the Goatman right where he is, the fact that he can't get a specific idea of where he is until he actually sees him, it makes it so much more difficult.
Actually, this magician's doing a very good job, considering that he actually evaded, like, I think it was 2 or 3 cages entirely without any hits. It's very impressive indeed, because we can see the antiquarian saving is already around 75%, and Sody McComb doesn't have much to do right now because he cannot go to that cipher because the magician will pop the cipher at the graveyard, so his choices are very limited right now, and I think the survivors will just have to pop it straight away, considering the magician has no borrowed time.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, I found your joke earlier regarding the borrowed time ironic, because as we've noticed, it's these two that actually... No, Antiquarian does have borrowed time, but it's unlucky that one of the last 2 players they have on this does not have borrowed time when it matters the most.
Yeah, but hold on, seems that the Goldman is hungry for more, because the Antiquarian does indeed have a slower decoding speed up towards the gate, but can she make it out though? Sody McComb holding the cage, second cage, this cage matters, but he misses it!
Cages, yeah.
No, he misses the cage, so this is going to be very fatal, because now the Antiquarian does have enough distance to make it outside, like, Finn. Just now, he was completely well within distance to stop the Antiquarian from making it out, but he just mistimed the last cage, and now the magician self-heal back up and making a mad dash, desperately wanting to know where the dungeon is, which is by double 11, or I think that's called Dancing Geisha, the alleyway, or whatever it's called.
I'm pretty sure that's school.
Oh, alright, school, I don't know how you'll call it. So yes, the magician now has a mad dash, but fortunately, Sody McComb also knows where the dungeon is and traps the magician at this weird area. So in theory, the magician doesn't have much places to go, as there we have it, goes down, and there goes the 3-man elimination.
Yeah, there goes the 3-man, and even though that magician played that last kite beautifully, because he doesn't have any borrowed time, he was not able to kite for much longer after that.
But yeah, here's the thing though, is that the survivors were about to get 4-man, but that clutch magician like kited out for the Antiquarian to decode the whole cipher with a very good use of the illusions. And the second thing is that Sody McComb missed the last cage over there at the gate. If he managed to pass through the last cage, he would have appeared behind, like right in front of the Antiquarian, and the Antiquarian would have been doomed over there with no items to use. It was just unfortunate that one slip up and he lost the 4K opportunity, but we definitely have to give applause to how well the magician kited this one out.
Yeah, it was an amazing kite from the magician here that was actually the only reason that the Antiquarian got out in the first place.
So while we're having it, we're going to head into the second match, the second half of the second game. So the mech is going to get banned. Actually, one thing we noticed is that the team seemed to fail to play the function of the mechanic, because a lot of games we see is that they use the mechanic spots the body block, and a lot of times it did not work in their favor, as the survivors still managed to go down very fast despite trying to get the body block.
Yeah, even after attempting to get the body block off with the mechanic, it just doesn't seem to work. So, again, this is really a special emphasis on the major weakness with the mechanic, which is finding a place to hide the bot properly.
But actually, now that we're looking, this is the first 2 picks from Wolfgang here is actually very similar to PPD. is also the Magician and the Antiquarian. So the Officer and the Mech gets banned, so we're going to see two different picks here. And I reckon they're still going to need a Rescuer and also another decent kiter. Maybe the Aeroplanist or the Acrobat are both solid picks. So let's see what would WG pick here. Or they can also pick the Embalmer, seeing that WG only needs a tie to win this round, but they opt for a Psycho instead.
Yep. I think the Psychologist pick here is actually pretty decent, or perhaps it's also a more comfort-sided pick. Accompany that with a Mercenary, they'll be able to essentially counter the Mercenary's slower healing here and allow them to actually also heal the Antiquarian up if she ever needs to go back to harassing really quickly.
Yeah, if they need it though, because in this meta, harassers are like not necessarily the best. So now that we have this team comp being selected, let's see what would Domus pick. I would personally would imagine the Hula Baloo maybe a bit better than the Goldman, because Goldman does not like survivors that are very tanky, which the Psychologist is. And also the Magician illusion wands are like 50-50 as we've seen just now. Maybe the Hula Baloo would be slightly better, or there's still that breaking wheel that we're talking about, Pollen, because I think we've already seen by now that the Will Brothers are very popular in this tournament, especially in BO1.
Yep, we've seen especially how amazingly they perform on Ever Sleeping as well, and considering how they counter a lot of the survivors here, the Mercenary, if they manage to triple spike the Mercenary, the Psychologist simply by getting the 2 spikes, and then perhaps not quite the Magician, because the Magician can use the wands to do a lot of mind games, but the Antiquarian stands about a 50-50 chance here.
But after Hula Baloo, as you mentioned, 50-50 chance, and Hula Baloo can actually chase anyone here first. Psychologist, Magician, Antiquarian, they all do. If it keeps chasing the Magician or the Antiquarian, it's going to be how skilled the Hula Baloo is aiming his clone, the Double Surprise, onto the survivors. Because if he can use the Pyrotechnist on the survivors accurately, then these survivors are fragile. But if he did not manage to aim it correctly, then both the Magician or the Antiquarian have a chance to use their items to kite longer and do a counterattack.
Yeah, that's gonna be the main issue here, but since they've chosen to spawn their Psychologist in middle instead of their Mercenary, I think she's actually gonna be the first kite here.
Yep, Psychologist first kite definitely. Like, there are no items, but it does take a bit longer to get her down depending on how skilled Hula Baloo is. But we do see that in this team comp, everyone has borrowed time. So if they can last towards endgame, it'll be good news. But the reason why we're seeing so many people without borrowed time in this meta is because if you bring borrowed time, you're at risk of either going down too fast or not lasting long enough because there's not enough tide. So this is a risky strategy by the survivors here. But let's see what it pay off for them.
By only having one tide, they're being forced to put a lot of faith into the kiter's abilities here. But up against a Hullabaloo, I think a lot of the burden will be placed onto the Antiquarian being able to support the Psychologist here. And also, not all of them have borrowed time. If we go back and notice, it actually is the Antiquarian who has no borrowed time, instead opting for Flywheel and Broken Windows.
Okay, my bad, I misread there. So we're gonna head into the game straight away. Domus here will be aiming for at least a free man, and it's going to charge straight for Darius's Antiquarian. So let's see. We're gonna have the first Double Surprise here. Get the first mark. Let's see. Oh, the second mark is not well placed enough. So now there's a chance for Darius here to use his sticks to try and last longer, but it's able to dodge one. And there we have it, 2 marks early into the game, so this is not looking too well, because the next Double Surprise and the Antiquarian here may be in a bad position.
Amazing use of Flywheel here to evade the first clone, but unfortunately goes down through a hit through the pallet, we're gonna see another double mark here, and that's gonna slow her down incredibly.
Oh,
Unfortunately, after missing almost all of her swings here, she's forced into a corner, trying to evade the red, but unfortunately not able to.
yeah, and here's the bad situation is that in this game, Domus brought abnormal because abnormal is a very common trait for the survivors to bring, especially in this map. And there we have it, gonna charge straight for it, and goodbye, Cypher, right as the magician was about to decode too. Like, that's a very painful, because it was at 98% and now it's down to 38. The good news though is amongst all this, the Antiquarian got rescued with no damage. It's like a 50-50 trade-off. But it was just so painful just thinking of the what ifs, what could have been for the survivors.
It's the same situation as it's the same feeling back then when the Dream Witch used to abnormal a cipher, or when a clerk would do the same thing.
Yeah, but we can see that he's actually going to be changing targets onto the mercenary. Like, I'm not sure if that's the best move, considering that Domus actually knew where the Antiquarian was, so I'm not understanding why did he change targets over there. Maybe he wants to like go for all field control something. So
No, but when you look at the cipher progress, he's actually at such a high risk of getting cipher rushed by choosing to chase the mercenary. By chasing the mercenary, now all remaining ciphers have the chance to be decoded, although that is a terror shock that will bring him down.
And the other good news though is that Antiquarian cipher is already no, or rather the Antiquarian has no more items remaining, and the Psychologists have nothing much to use. So ideally, no one can kite this one out. But this is definitely more of a risky move here by not committing. So right now, his best bet is to force the Psychologist to come in and rescue, because the thing is that the mercenary can last on the chair much longer. So it's better to force her to rescue. Don't let her wait for more time, as the rescue is gonna pull off. And in theory, the mercenary cannot last for too long.
No, I doubt he's going to be able to last for too long because, again, with the red ball here, he's not able to use his elbow pad to get away and instead will go down to a hit.
Yeah, but the thing though is that the last two ciphers, just look at the last two ciphers, they're very high in progress. The last one is already around 20%. But the good news though is that that's also the one where the psychologist is going to get chaired. So now the psychologist cipher is going to... Oh, it actually goes for the hit instead. And there we have it at normal, and it negates all the closeness that the survivors had in one point.
Yeah, but even then, because it's abnormal, because abnormal's habit of decreasing the amount by which it reduces cipher progress, it actually doesn't decrease it by a lot. If mercenary goes down here, one of the other fast decoding survivors can simply get that back up as fast as they can.
Yeah, like they did try to get it back up, but would it be enough though? Because it's only at 70%, and the psychologist is already in danger of getting chased over here. Already 2 marks on her, 1 more mark, and she will go down. But Domus here is going to get pressured by the magician, so the survivors right now sort of confine Domus to decipher, as Domus does not dare to leave too much, and the survivors can play this slow and have another survivor decode a cipher at the far distance, which the psychologist is already on the job.
Yeah, but that was an amazing use of double surprise here to get a double mark here at the same time by using another clone, amazingly placed by the way, to get that white mark. A magician takes his damage.
Yeah, so this is sort of like a back and forth situation, as the hunter does not dare to leave the cipher too much, but the survivors have to stick close while not getting down at the same time, because the Antiquarian already get 1 hit, and if she goes down here, this would be a disaster considering she's clicking straight into the other cipher and also the basement at the same time.
Yeah, but if we're actually looking, since they now have 2 ciphers, the hullabaloo is torn between having to watch the primed cipher or actually having to kill one of them. But because this cipher is already primed, he loses the chance to actually do that. But unfortunately, again here, this is what you mentioned a while ago, the risk of not having borrowed time.
So, yeah, like not having borrowed time is this risk over here, because the Antiquarian is the only one with borrowed time came back to haunt them. So let's see how does Domus want to play this one out. Gonna charge after the psychologist, but that opens the gate for the magician. So that's why Warp is going to be in play over here. But I think the rescue is already playing out. So at at this point, the magician, like the chances for Domus here is crumbling because he sort of lost his best opportunity over there.
No, unfortunately now I think the best pace he can get is to try and go back to that antiquarian if he can find her and just kill her. But with how little control he has over the map right now, unable to use his warp anymore to go catch the antiquarian, and with the gate all so close to being open, he's forced to target lock onto this psychologist here.
Yeah, he's sort of getting forced to lock on, but during amongst all this, we can see that Darius, the antiquarian, is already making towards the other gates too. So I think this might be over for Team PBD over here because I don't think he can get a Freeman elimination. Oh, the tram. So there goes the tie. There goes the tie. Yeah, I think Domus lost the best opportunity is that after he chaired the antiquarian, he should have tried and locate who is the one grabbing tinnitus. Because if he goes out and charges at the gate, unless he can time perfectly to move back towards the chair, he would get risk of getting caught, getting like instant rescue, and then have them separate while someone's at the gate.
Yeah, but also I think, what do you think of that tram timing? Do you think the psychologist would have had the timing to get to the dungeon with Sticker?
No. I'm certain no. But anyways, Congratulations to WG as they are gonna stay alive. For team PDD, they're going to drop down to the O2 bracket. So now with 0-2, this means that one more match they are out. So they definitely have to be very careful. As with the power of technology, let's skip into the third game. So with TSF and no exit. So for no exit, we have Boy Bao Ting, Kang, Tank, Fang Yuan. Oh, I recognize Fang Yuan. He's actually, I think he was actually in my tournament. But anyways, EW Naibu, Chang Yu, and look at this thing, a familiar name, Corone.
Corone.
Wait, oh yeah, I skipped TSF. You can go ahead.
Yeah, and for Team TSF, we have PECK.
I'll just pause it for you.
Yeah, we have PECK, Toy, Yasmerk, SCP Homie, Chen BG, Trapitz, and Nathan Black.
Yeah, so these two teams are also in the O1 bracket. And oh, look at this. We have a different map for today. Because we've seen actually a lot of Ever Sleeping Town throughout this tournament. But now we have a different map. So Knight is going to be the first one being banned here as... Oh, Forward going to be selected. Like actually Forward is used to be very strong in this meta. Or actually is very strong in this meta. Because like with the new engine, it means that it makes the forward dash much more fluent than before. And can react faster. And given that he received a buff, like a decoding speed buff, he's definitely a threat to be reckoned with.
Yeah, and especially since it's a big map, so hunters like Hullabaloo who rely completely on warp to be able to get proper map control here, simply the map pick has already eliminated that possibility, meaning one of the two biggest threats in terms of hunter meta is already essentially at a disadvantage right off the get-go.
Well, honestly though, just now they scared me for a second with the lawyer and the doctor, so like Meteorologist is gone, so let's see what's going to be the real pick here. Psychologist and lawyer. So lawyer is going to be the next pick here, which is interesting because we don't really see lawyer a lot after he got nerfed. And if the team really wants the decoder, maybe the prisoner would be a better pick here.
Yeah, especially because it's such a big map. Localized decoders, or decoders that need a lot of time to set up, like maybe the mechanic and also the lawyer, they're just not quite advisable on really, really big maps like Lakeside.
So let's see what is going to be the pick here, because first of all, Goatman definitely works here because Goatman not afraid of forward, and also like maybe the psychologist would give the Goatman a bit of issue, but the acrobat here is definitely like not the best against the Goatman, because if you use it to increase distance, Goatman has a lot of ways to surprise you with that.
Yeah, perhaps one of the only options he has here is does that old trick still work where you can use the ball to actually evade a hit?
Like I'm not sure which one you're talking about, like dodge it the moment they hit or something.
At some point I remember it being possible to jump over the hunter's head, but I'm not sure if that's still possible.
I mean you can jump backwards, but you still are at risk of getting hit.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so there we have it. Goatman is going to be making his grand appearance here, and he over here ideally he doesn't. The only way he really does not want to chase the most is the psychologist, because in early game, Goatman has to get someone down within 3 cages, and psychologist can take 3 hits, so that's the one that he does not really want to chase. And the lawyer gets absolutely wrecked over by the Goatman, and also more or less the acrobat as well. So this is a more advantage team comp for the Goatman to appear.
Yeah, and they've actually chosen to spawn their acrobat in Shack, which actually might be a better idea as long as this Goatman doesn't. As long as they can kite out the cages properly, if the Goatman decides to zone the acrobat out of the only 2 pallets and windows within Shack itself.
But that's going to be dependent on how the Goatman uses the cage, because the acrobat can also hug the shack over there. But then there is always the risk of the Goatman using his cages to block off the window, and then the acrobat will be stuck in a weird position.
Yeah, because his only other option would be either to route towards Crab Shack or the cornfields, which are both notorious for being terrible places to kite and being more so transitional areas.
So we're going to be heading into the game with your casters Invisible Jong and Sin, between the match of No Exit and TSF. Wait, hold on. That's skip ahead too much.
Ooh.
Yep, so we're gonna head into the game straight away. ECK going to head straight towards Fang Yuan's lawyer, who is at the big boat, which is the strongest killing area. So let's see, does ECK know where the lawyer went? Because if accurate, like if his predictions are good, he could have used 1 cage to trap the lawyer in a good position, which he sort of misses the first cage, but fortunately for him, he still has 1 more cage to work with. And we're talking about 30 seconds in the game, and the lawyer already took the first hit here, Sin.
Yeah, amazing use of his cages, an amazing prediction of where the lawyer would be actually, even though he had to use 2 cages because of how early that was. I think it was definitely worth it. Right now we're gonna witness the lawyer probably struggle to get a second. Yeah, struggle to kite out that second cage set, and he will go down really early.
Yeah, that was actually a very good cage placed by the Goatman. But hold on, the fourth's gonna come in and gonna go straight for the stun while no one is talking about. So that's a very amazing play by the fourth, buying more time and forcing out the next cage. And this one is like a harder one for the Goatman to get because there are paths to work around with. So that's a very nice move from the fourth, getting a sneak attack. As I think ECK here is gonna struggle for a bit, but this is a very well timed cage though, because the lawyer had nowhere to go, and there goes the down, but the 4 is ready, and the Goatman will have to wait until his next cage is ready.
Yeah, without having another cage to isolate this forward, he's just gonna be looming over his head like those annoying mosquitoes.
Yeah, but
Ooh.
well, there we have it. But I'm not sure if this is the best play on ECK's side here. Oh, 4 going for it. Unfortunately, still gonna get hit. But I was about to say is that he was trying to chair the cage, like chair the lawyer at a chair where there's a cage when there was a chair right next to him with no cage. So I'm not sure if that's the best move. But let's see though, now the fourth's gonna go for it and still gonna take a hit and rescue. So even though like the rescue gonna come in play here and the chair did come in play, the fourth definitely brought a lot of time for the survivors.
And we're gonna see this that now the lawyer is actually doing a pretty decent rebound cut. If he can get through this pallet, and he unfortunately cannot get through this pallet, but if he did, that would have extended his kite enough to finish the last two, another two set of ciphers.
But yeah, but honestly, while there's still lost ciphers remaining, it's definitely decent enough because that forced sneak attack definitely brought them a lot of time. But Acrobat being forced to rescue over here. That's amazing backstep by ECK, forcing the Acrobat to early rescue and not giving the survivors any breathing chance, and the lawyer likely not able to last this one out. So this is not good for the survivors. First, not able to get rebound kind of forced to rescue. But if we look at the cipher progress, there's only around 60% remaining just because of how. But hold on, for going for it. They want more. Honestly, this 4 is definitely shining this game, giving the hunters a lot of sneak attack and definitely wanting to go for a 4-man endgame.
Yeah, and with this cage placement, even though they do block off the forward from the, even though that pallet does block off the forward, because it blocks off the lawyer, and it also doesn't quite land within the lawyer's range. This does make it so that they can prime the last cipher.
Getting the hit here, I'm not sure if that's the best idea because the survivors can pop, and the Goldman is very low in resentment level at this point, so this is a very bad situation for the Goldman because this is a 4-man endgame and he only has 1 cage to work with. The thing is, even with detention, if you have no cage, you cannot get someone down in normal situation, but the lawyer is still gonna go down here and he would be forced to chair because he cannot just teleport away. So this is a 3-man escape sin in this hunter-sided meta.
Yeah, honestly, amazing job on these survivors, especially all of that support from the forward. All of those stuns from the forward made it so that this lawyer, even when he messes up, is able to actually extend his kite to a 5-cipher kite.
Yeah, that's amazing job of the fourth sneak attack because the lawyer went down relatively early, but the fourth saved it entirely, putting the Ghostman in a very bad position. And now this is putting his team in a bad position too, because now the next hunter only needs to get a tie, and then they're going to win. And there are just so many ways to time this meta.
And not only that, it's just their ability to control and distribute their progress over the ciphers in time so that they don't waste even a second of that lawyer's kite. Just made it so much more. It made so much more pressure on the hunter's side.
So now we're gonna be heading straight. And right now, no exit here is going to have to live up to their name, and make sure there are 2 survivors that will have no exit in this game, as TSF needs a 3-man escape. So we're seeing the Magician and the Barmaid, but I'm not sure if Magician is the best pick here. We do see Magician is very popular in this tournament, but as I've said before, if you, in this meta, you would definitely want some other survivors, because other survivors can provide more for a team.
Yeah, and it's not like before where the barmaid healer meta used to actually be really strong here because of how easy it is for a hunter like Goatman to isolate the barmaid and prevent her from actually supporting, or someone like Hullabaloo who has an entirely different attack cycle can prevent the heal from popping properly.
But we actually see the Seer and the Ford to make this one up, and this is one very tanky team comp if you ask me, Sin. This team comp is very, very tanky. So for Goatman or Hullabaloo might struggle a little bit. Or maybe Khan can go for something entirely and go for something like Disciple. Or actually not Disciple, like Wax Artists or Chip Hunters. Maybe better here. Or if they're very confident, they can just go Meta Hunters anyways. Like there's just a lot of choices.
Yeah, right now there's a lot of choices, and it with being a big, yeah, again, since it's lakeside, certain hunters, certain meta hunters just might not be the most viable. They need to pick someone that can handle how tanky this team is. We've seen Magician's potential against Goatman in a previous match, where I'm thinking there might be some synergy with the Barmaid Drink and the Seer Owl here, and then the forward there to provide additional support, as we've seen just earlier.
Oh, but when you look at that, we are going to be seeing the Hermit making an appearance. But actually, like, I'm not certain if Hermit's the best idea because, like, I think I've talked this about with you in a different day. Hermit, high risk, high reward, and considering that he only needs to tie, Kang's Hermit choice here may not be the best. And second of all, Seer's Owl counters Hermit, and also the Barmaid's Wine that can regen also counters Hermit. So in theory, Hermit is not the best pick against his team comp as well. But Kang making the choice here despite this being a bad team comp and like a high risk, high reward probably means that he is very confident in his Hermit.
Yeah, and here he actually spawns right next to the two people who somewhat counter him, but if he targets the barmaid first, that'll actually make it easier to deal with her in the long term.
But the thing is that the barmaid would just regen her wine over and over and over.
Yeah, but then it deals with the issue of being able to heal the rescuer and being able to slow down the heal from that. Although it will be a bother once the seer actually uses his owl to help her reach the remaining timer on her wine if she ever needs it.
Yeah, but the thing is that the barmaid having the wine, and especially because normally when Hermit deals damage to the barmaid, it would not be a full damage. This would mean that it would take forever to get the barmaid down early game.
Mm-hmm.
And there's also the Seer's out in play, don't forget.
Yeah, the seer is really what's gonna be the most struggle for a single hit hunter like Hermit here.
So now we're going to head into the game straight away. He's going to be heading straight towards the Seer, but the Seer's already playing hide and seek with the Hunter, and Kang does not seem to know where did the Barm, or rather the Seer went for a bit, so this is going to buy them some time. And as I said, this is a very bad comp for the Hermit, so Kang would definitely have to try and best to locate the Seer and get the chase fast.
Yeah, here, I'm not sure.
Oh.
He actually doesn't seem to be able to spot the seer right now, but
now he knows.
No, he finally caught onto a trail and now he knows. Although, being forced to use the owl early, but that doesn't mean the seer gets to kite and transition to a stronger area with full HP. He has his first mark, but it's not one that's... It's one that forces a bunch of the other survivors to waste their switch so early into the map.
Yeah, but the thing is that now multiple survivors can tank this hit. Oh, there goes the stun and the hit. But the Seer still at 1.6 health is a lot. So Kang is actually going to go a free for all, knowing that the owl has already been expanded. So then the person taking the next kill will be the Magician, who unfortunately failed illusion there. So now it's going to take another hit, and the Magician down to 1.2 health. And so the Magician will definitely have to be more careful here, because one normal hit from the Hermit and he's gone.
Yeah, but by choosing to actually give him a mark, there it is. The forward and the seer can actually switch to assist the Magician here. This will extend his kite, even though he is still gonna die in his next hit. This will extend his kite, and by overshooting that teleport, it gives him a lot more breathing room to actually continue looping around this long path.
One more miracle. There we have it. Magician going to be going down, and actually this is fine. This is like relatively fine, I guess, because there's actually no, it's not too fine, because it's actually near 4 ciphers in total. Like, that's the thing with Hermit. The weakness of Hermit is the first down would be slow, meaning that it's always a high risk, high reward character. So now that we're having it, Nathan Black, barmaid here prepared to rescue, but seeing that there is no tide turner for the barmaid though, so there is a chance for the Magician to get farmed off.
Yeah, but also, unfortunately, the barmaid is not able to pull off the Insta-Dovlin tech here, which
Oh,
would have been
forward.
useful, but the stun goes off anyway, so that wouldn't have helped any, I think.
Yeah, but the second issue here is that now the forward's in play. Unless Kang can get the forward down very fast or get the stun fast, he would not be able to chair the magician because the forward will always be here to harass. And I think considering that this game that Kang only needed a tie, but this may not seem like it at this point. Oh, watch out, watch out! But fails it. But fails the dash
Oh,
over there though, which is very very unfortunate for the survivors. If he got the stun, then it's almost a near guaranteed free escape. But now things may change entirely as the fort is forced to go for a stun rescue. But this means that the magician might get farmed off the chair. Oh my
yeah,
god!
right now there's a, oh my god, that's a terror shock.
Yeah, the magician definitely got greedy over there because just now both the magician and the forward have a charge on them, meaning that the magician, if he just took the hit normally, both of them would be still alive. But him taking the terror shock also brought down the forward as well. Like a terror shock is the one thing they did not want at that time, and that is going to change the course of the game entirely here, Sin.
Right now, it's actually looking possible to get a proper, at least a tie, because of how much cipher progress is left. Since it's a hermit, well, yes, the first down will also be slow. The decoding will be just as slow.
Yeah, like that terror shock definitely changed the game entirely over there. And also the forward failing that dash also changed things a bit because he could have saved it for after the rescue. So yeah, actually, this is back to Kang's game because he only needs a time, meaning that he only needs to target the barmaid until she gets eliminated because the barmaid will be chaired over here. Seer and Ford already have no self heal, so this is a very bad position for the survivors.
Yeah, and not only that, even if they do decide to rescue her, she has no utility for a rebound. At most, she has borrowed time, but her flywheel is on a cooldown.
I mean, it's not even about a cooldown. It's that if she can be rescued off a chair, because the hermit knows which direction the survivors are coming from. Sears decoding that cipher and Ford getting caught that far means that it's unlikely that anyone would be anywhere close to the chair. Like here he can choose to harass the ciphers, or he can just choose to target the Ford. But it seems like he's gonna be opting to like locate the ciphers. I think it would be better to target the Ford instead, guaranteeing a failed rescue. But hold on, he says teleport though, so that must be it. Because Ford says a quarter of football, but would it do him any good at this point?
With a quarter of a football, he could probably do something that could again change the course of the match, perhaps back into their favor after that disastrous terror shock. But fortunately, they do not get even a single escape, and that is a
Well,
four-man kill.
there you have it. No exit lived up to their name and made sure the survivors got no exit. But honestly, like
Mm-hmm.
the survivors were actually in position for a three-man escape. But what changed the game is that when the Ford come in, the Ford failed the stun and ended up getting a balloon hit, bringing him in half health and forcing him to go a stun rescue. And the second thing is that after the magician got the charge on him, the magician did a risky vault that got terror shock and brought both him and the Ford down in one go. And at this point, that just changed the game entirely, and that was a misstep on the survivors' end. So congratulations to Team NE for advancing back to the 1-1 bracket, but unfortunately for Team TSF, they would descend down to the 0-2 and they're one match from being eliminated.
Yup, team. Yup, now that means Team No Exit will be back into the relatively safe, but again, TSF will struggle with their next matchup.
We'll have to see though, but with that, congratulations to No Exit, as we're going to be heading on to the final matchup for the day.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be between Team ES and Team Bun.
Both of these teams are teams I actually haven't been here for because I wasn't here for day one.
Oh, I skipped the intro. Let's see. Let me get this back in. For Team ES, we have DH, Wan, Fuku, Kao, NM, Nam, and Mobius, which Mobius is a more familiar name, and you can go ahead and good luck.
You really left me with the difficult task of trying to figure out the pronunciation for this, huh? We've got Team Bun. I'm just gonna use the Latin pronunciation. Voivang, Kongshua, Trove, Kien, Nguyatakam, Horum, Hakmu, I think? If I've butchered that, I do apologize. I don't know what the pronunciation is supposed to be.
Yeah, we do not know Vietnamese, so I apologize. We do not know Vietnamese, and we do not know Thai. Anyways, here we have it. Priestess is going to be the first band. And oh, Moonlit River Park, a map that we haven't seen a lot in this tournament. But this is also the map that has infinite possibilities.
Yep, we've seen a lot of interesting stuff happen on Moonlight, especially with that roller coaster. But with the recent shift in meta, I'm not trying to use the roller coaster might be more difficult than it used to be.
Well, we are going to be seeing Embalmer and Painter strategy. Very interesting from Team Bonsai. We actually seen that being pulled up by Team WBG in I think last year, and like get the painting and also get a coffin at the same time. I'm very excited to see how a Team Bun plan to play this one out.
By going for a forward, it really seems like they want to push that harass up. They want to keep their team survivability up, and they balance it out with a rescuer like Journalist.
I mean, Journalist is fine considering that she can like get a free rescue and all. But then the weakness of Journalist is that her raw kiting is weak comparing to all the other standard rescuers we see. So that's something we should look out for. So let's see what will the Hunter ES BMO here pick. Like we do know that the Hula Baloo and the Goatman will always be a possibility. But don't forget, we've seen a lot of Breaking Wheel round 1. So maybe there's a chance this will pull out too.
Yeah, there's a chance we might see a Breaking Wheel, because aside from Ever Sleeping, this map is also one of his notoriously better maps.
Definitely. So we'll have to see what is going to be happening here, though. As BMO here is just going to be waiting. Like, there's just too many possibilities, because while Goatman and Hula Baloo are the established top picks, there are teams that always prefer to pick their more comfort picks or something, so we definitely should not count anything out.
Yup. And pretty soon we're gonna see exactly what Hunter BMO is gonna pick.
Yeah, that's really dependent on what they do have. But Wheel is definitely possible here, but opts for the Hula Baloo instead, which is going to be fine because Hula Baloo also very strong in this map because, as we all know, he can trapeze across the bridge in one go. So the coffin that's played by the Embalmer probably won't work too much. And the Hula Baloo can chase pretty much anyone apart from the forward.
Right, apart from the forward, he's not gonna have much trouble with the Journalist because unless she can time those cameras spectacularly, it's just not going to be able to do much for the pallets. For Edgar, for the Painter, it's just going to be really difficult to get a proper mark or just buy enough time to get his first painting down.
But for the spawn selection, we're seeing an interesting spawn here because normally the fort will be spawning on the bridge rather than the tent. So this is like a more unprecedented pick over here. But for the Hula Baloo, maybe he'll still pick at the fourth stop. Because like in this team comp, there are no people that are strong at the fourth stop. Because normally we would see like acrobat or patient or meteorologist, which are all very strong at the fourth stop, but we do not see that here,
Mhm.
meaning that whoever spawned at the fourth stop will not have much to work with in this game.
Yes, but we're actually gonna see. But since the forward is so close by, if the painter ever needs it, he can simply ask the forward for support, and he'll be there. He'll be right there waiting.
Uh-huh. Yeah, but the thing is that actually I've just realized is that forward in this meta can deal with the Hula Baloo, because after the nerf Hula Baloo no long like the pyrotechnist no longer instantly silences the survivor, you have to wait around 0.3 seconds, and that's more sufficient for the forward to do some harassment. So if the painter goes down too fast, maybe the saving grace is on the forward, but I do see a possibility here of Hula Baloo bringing excitement to deal with both the painter and the forward at the same time.
We're gonna be looking at their persona traits. Unfortunately, we didn't see it, but we do know that did see at least that the painter does not have borrowed time. He instead has a full kite build, which should help him survive a little bit longer, being the most likely first chase here.
So we're gonna be heading into the game straight away with your lovely caster Invisible Jong and Sin, but he's going to be opting for a different target, going to be heading straight towards the Embalmer instead, because in this direction there's no fort to assist.
Yeah, even though the Embalmer starts off at a better kiting area, it's pretty easy to control the Embalmer to leave the two-story building and instead go straight towards first stop towards the journalist. Or mostly towards the cart actually, especially since the hunter can't terror shock him off of it.
Oh, I think he can Terror Shock off of it, but actually it doesn't even matter in this case, because we can see even though the survivor set up the second stop, the Embalmer already has 2 fright marks on him, so there's not much that he can really do. Like, yes, we do see the painter is already here trying to harass, but oh, a bit of a click over there. But it only takes 1 more fright mark for the Embalmer to go down, and there we have it. And even the painter would be in danger too at this point, because with 1 encore and the painter is already injured, and also the Hula Baloo has the warp to work with, so the coffin won't even do much in this game.
Yeah, I think since the forward is still close by, no, they've actually decided to opt for the coffin first, which will lead the Embalmer back to a strong kiting area against the Hullabaloo. But will he be able to utilize this properly?
Like, honestly, I'll say this, there are no really strong kiting areas against Hula Baloo, especially in this map. Because we can see, like, look at this, the Embalmer already taking the damage, and if we look at the cipher progress as a whole, it's only 2 ciphers, because with the painter coming in to harass and not gaining much from it, the ciphers are much slower than before, and also the Embalmer coffin did not work in their favor considering the Hula Baloo had warp to work with. So this warp pick from the Hula Baloo is very, very smart.
Yeah, I think you can just blind the guy, and here we're already seeing the Embalmer again, because they've chosen to use his coffin already. They do manage to get that rescue last minute with Tide, but since the hunter's nowhere nearby, it's almost as if that Tide was wasted.
No, I don't think it's wasted at all, considering that it forced the hunter onto a different target, and I would really highly question if like charging out like that was the best play, because they have the journalist here that can always sneak rescue. So because like by doing this, he allowed the Embalmer who is dead on chair scot-free, which is like, I don't think the best play over here. And now with all 3 survivors decoding, Hula Baloo knows where to go, because he knows the other 2 are very far away from the chair.
Yep, and there it is. We're gonna see him chasing the forward here. And the painter is still on the chair, but the good news with it being the painter on chair is that warp.
Yeah, The good news of
Still
Painter
a
on chair
moment,
was like
yeah.
the chair timing, but the bad news is that the Embalmer, who is dead on chair, as I would remind you, is the one being forced into rescue, meaning that there's not much they can really do because the Embalmer doesn't have much kiting like potential left on him, and you only wait until this end core before going down for good.
Yeah, no, and unfortunately, well, yeah, no, the painter just has barely enough time to get rescued by the forward here. Another tide gets used up, and that is actually going to be both of their tides. So they won't have any tides for the later half of the game, but the painter does get a painting down in a relatively far area. If he can use this out, if he can kite out the next few dashes, then he should be safe. He should buy enough time.
Oh, let's see the double surprise, but one more trapeze and the painter will be in a bad position over here. I don't think the painter is able to last for long. Here playing mind games not working, and yup, the painter will be chaired. And even though the painter has the trait with the chair, the issue is that just now when the painter was rescued, he was already very, very high in chair time, meaning that the 4 almost must arrive instantly, but the Hula Baloo still also have a double surprise to work with, so let's see though. Only a black mark, so I think he's able to pull off the rescue, which is very good news, though I don't think the painter will be able to last for long because, oh, actually flywheel affects away that though, so the painter is still lasting, but he has to last for like around 40% of ciphers over here.
Yeah, but since we're on one cipher and the last cipher is now at 78, since it's the journalist decoding, the debuff isn't as bad as if it were forward here.
Oh,
if forward can manage to get up in time.
Misses. Oh, it's able to get it down, but the cipher is going to be enough. So actually that was a very smart move. Like just now, literally the Hula Baloo got the painter down at the last moment, but instead of picking up the painter, he went to pick up the 4 instead because the 4 was the one with borrowed time, so the 4 could have got him back up. He must have realized that painter had no borrowed time, so that's why he's not going to be wasting time and instead going to pick up the 4 instead, and now going to try to pick the journalist or locate the journalist, but the journalist is nowhere near the gate as she is going to be trying to making a mad dash to save the 4 instead.
She could save the forward, or right now she could actually opt to go for the dungeon instead, because if she saves forward, there's a high chance. Ooh.
Yeah, but the thing is that it's also unlikely for her to kite this one out, though. Yeah, I do think that it's maybe better for her to not save, but let's see what's gonna play out. As the journalist is gonna get caught over here, and the journalist doesn't have much to work with. The cameras, like the Orpheus over there, cannot save her for long as she's gonna go down.
Yeah, she will go down, and since this is her first chair, now the forward is the one being put into the position, but without the advantage of actually being at full health.
And also the double surprise can always locate the survivors as, yep, we can see BMO already knows where the 4 is, and with 2 trapezes, there goes the forward, and the gate has not been opened. The dungeon is not in this angle. I'm going to say that this is almost a checkmate for the survivors because the hunter is like completely in control, and there's nothing the fort can really do.
Yeah, unfortunately, it would take an actual miracle for this forward to be able to reach the dungeon right now.
Yeah, but miracles does not happen.
And there he goes. We've seen it happen once, and I think that's already our quota tonight with that terror shock from the Hermit match.
Yeah, the thing is that first of all, the first down was way too fast, and then second of all is that after the Embalmer got chaired, the survivors were not clear in what they do as they sent the painter, or rather, let me correct myself. After, who was that gone down? I think it was the painter. Yeah, after the painter gone down, they sent the Embalmer, who was dead on chair, to go. And as the Embalmer got caught and eliminated, this is very bad. So I think they were not clear in their plan, is that after the painter got switched chaired, I think they probably should have instantly regrouped and swapped position to have either the forward or the journalist go, rather than sending the Embalmer in such a weird position.
Yeah, rather than forcing their most endangered person, like of all of them, Embalmer is hands down the weakest person here since the distance advantage that his coffin gives is easily cancelled out by Trapeze.
Uh-huh. So we're going to be moving on potentially the last match of the day. I'll say potentially because there is a possibility for Buns Hunter Keen here to get a 4-man elimination and move on. So let's see what will ES Survivor pick. I reckon they can pick like survivors that are very strong in the force stomp, such as the patient, the acrobat, or also the meteorologist. But they're opting for a very interesting approach here, Sin, going for cheerleader and lucky guy. Oh my, I did not expect this.
Yeah, I was not expecting the lucky guy pick actually, but the cheerleader pick makes sense if they choose to synergize her with someone. Like, yeah, the synergy with Knight is not bad.
Yeah, but the knight is the one that she can really only assist because Core only has one flare gun, and I think here ES wants to play the double flare gun strategy.
Yeah, this does seem like the double flare gun
Oh my goodness!
strategy here.
Look at the coordinator's personal name.
Oh boy.
Oh boy.
We
Yeah, no,
might
I'm
be
not saying
witnessing some
that.
shenanigans.
I'm not saying that. But anyways, well, for the personal names, I like to name myself. I like to name weird stuff all the time. Seeing that I like have Chinese, I actually just weird stuff like sea fish or like stop the car or something like that. But I won't name a person or something like this.
Yeah, for me personally, I'm more of an organized person and I do have my names either named after people who taught me to use specific traits from the persona tree or just the general persona itself.
And look at this. ES's the lucky guy is Call Me Man. It's like like I would reckon it would be something like Yo My Man or something like that. So Keen here must take a 4-man. Let's see what will he be picking. Maybe something that does not afraid of the flare gun stuns. Maybe like we do know that oh, Offer and Ivy. Yeah, I actually now that we're talking, I actually remember was that Keen that also played the Shadow on Moonlit River Park before? I think so.
Mm-hmm. It might have been.
Yeah, but the Shadow on Moonlit River Park. Yeah, I don't think this is the best map for her to play with, as she's very weak in this map and she must need a 4-man. Because the thing is that this map is massive, meaning that it'll be very hard for her to feel control. Second of all, this is an open map, meaning that it'll be even harder for her to like seal off areas with her Ostracons. So the Ivy will have to like pull off a very miracle play if she wants to take the win, because this map is too massive for her to feel control end game.
Yeah, she cannot let the survivors cipher rush her when she's going to play Ivy on such a big map, but the issue is when you look at their team comp, they barely have any decoding debuffs. Aside from the decoding debuffs on the knight and the coordinator, the cheerleader and the lucky guy are getting off pretty much scot-free.
Yeah, also considering that the knight actually like here is the knight and knight against the shadow can last for a bit because he can use his tactical foresight as soon as the ivy gets near, and the thing with the ivy is that there is no way for the ivy to use two skills one after another unless you teleport away. Like if the knight use tactical foresight and guesses both as normal attack, what will happen is that the Ivy can only use her main body's revelation to get rid of one of them, and in order to get another skill, she'll have to teleport away, which is not ideal. So Knight actually does work against the Shadow one way or another.
Yep, and we're gonna see the game starting here. Oh, Kim
forget
might
about
actually be going through some lag, yeah? Let's just skip through it since we have the ability to. I think you've skipped a bit too far ahead.
Yeah, I probably did. Here. Okay, we're back into the game now.
No?
So we can see the Keen is wandering around here and very smart on the coordinator not touching the cipher as she predicted that the Yidra will be heading here to drop an Ostracon. So now as Keen is forced to pull the Yidra back, now the coordinator can safely decode as one will be taking the first kite and is actually trapped by the Ostracon as he cannot run back there or else he'll get teleported onto.
Yeah, unfortunately, he's being forced to kite here, and unless he can use his items, no, he's already forced to use one of his predictions just to get out of that
Yeah, but
position
actually,
without taking a hit.
yeah, no, but that's actually good because actually during all that he actually managed to dodge the Yidra's revelation. So now that the revelation is off, he evaded of getting a hit entirely and is in position to kite for a decent amount of time. So dodging that revelation over there was such a beautiful move by Wan, as this brought him at least 13 seconds more of kiting time.
Yep, and now we're gonna see the Yidra go back to the knight instead of choosing to change targets. She's gonna try to leech, but because of the cooldown, she is unable to.
Yeah, it's able to get the full presence, but then again, against Ivy, you only really need 2 normal attacks, but actually there was like a danger over there as I realized he could have Revelation, Scare, Revelation, Blink, and then get it down. So actually, there was a risk of one over there, but this time opts for a different approach and guesses the skill, but actually Keen guesses it entirely. So if we're talking about mind games, Keen actually won over there because he predicted that there are no normal attacks in this guess.
Yup. And now we're gonna see the knight be shared rather far away from the others here. Is that?
Cord.
Yeah, that's Cord going for the rescue. But
Yeah, I mean,
just so that.
I mean, the Cord can pull off the rescue relatively easy because the corruption like increases slower during the chair. But let's see. Here, he wants to get hit on the Cord. Can he get a dope? But hold on, the coordinator failed to use the flywheel effect over there. So that's a bit of a bummer. But actually, I just realized that is that this Yidra, or rather the Ivy, has no insolence. Instead, he brought Trump card. The advantage of Trump card is that the end game is stronger, but the early game is weaker because without full presence, he cannot read down anyone fast.
And there we go. We're looking at 2 ciphers remaining, with one of them only having a little bit over 50%. They're still missing a lot of decoding progress, but again, Terror Shock, actually, that doesn't matter much because the coordinator was already low on HP and they still have 4 full survivors alive within the manor.
Yeah, she's still on her full chair, so really Keen's time is limited here, as considering that he does not have anyone dead on chair. Right now, he has to get someone dead on chair fast, but the coordinator will not, or rather the lucky guy will not give him the chance going for instant flare gun. So here, Keen actually, because he already used the 40 corruption teleport just now, he actually can knock down anyone fast, so the survivors have all the time in the world to reset and just slowly decode ciphers and give the hunter even more pressure.
Yeah, there it is. And again, remember how this Ivy actually needs a 4K in order to continue this matchup into overtime. This is already a really bad pace. We're seeing 1 cipher remaining, and even though this is not it's not yet primed, she might not have enough momentum to get all 4 kills within that time.
Yeah, I don't think she has the momentum because we see that here he tried to teleport on a cheerleader who got evaded away. This cheerleader pick was very good on ES's side here because cheerleader counters the shadow. I think actually this cheerleader pick was calculated, which was very good. As currently the Ivy has to like stuck in this side of the map as all 3 ciphers are around here, but the survivors really have all the time in the world to just heal everyone back up and slowly but surely get the game through.
Yeah, they just need to take this slow and steady, and because of that perfume, we're actually gonna see no damage taken from the knight. The palette allows him to...
Flywheel!
Ooh, amazing use of flywheel, evading another hit and stalling out even more time.
Yeah, Yeah, actually, like there was a bit of a mistime on the Ivy's part, and even the Shadow can sort of like move Yidra here, do field control here, move over there. The survivors, all they have to do is to make sure that no one goes down. Once someone goes at half health, they can retreat. They can retreat out of the ciphers, and then get healed up. Meanwhile, sending someone in full health coming in to rescue. Like the survivors have all the time in the world to play this slow. It is the hunter that's in borrowed time over here.
Mm-hmm. Right now, she's struggling to pick a target here, but she really needs to at least start downing someone. With how much progress the Cypher already has and how she's not actually doing anything to stop the Cypher itself from being decoded. By the time she downs anyone, that Cypher's already primed.
Oh! That was a very good play from Juan over there, effectively predicting the blink and going down, because if he got down over there, then the Shadow can still do for field control. But that missed blink over there completely ruined the Hunter's chance entirely. And clearly we can see that Keen does not dare, the Hunter does not dare to call back Yidra, or else the Survivorverse will instantly decode the ciphers. And now we can see that it's already about to be primed, and I think they can just pop it, considering that not everyone here has borrowed time.
Yeah, there's a high chance they'll just pop it so that they can at least secure. If they can secure these survivors, if they even just one, woo!
Actually, just now.
Amazing use of the flashlight, yeah.
No. Actually, just now, the lucky guy made a bit of a blunder, is that he ended up getting hit first in the 100 corruption level, which is not ideal, as he could fail the cipher fear pop. But then again, it won't matter considering that the advantage on ES's survivors are just way too large. Because right now we have all 4 survivors remaining very healthy and all. It's unlikely for him to get a 4-man needed to end this game. So I think we can almost say congratulations to Team ES.
Yep, and we're gonna be watching the night go out, but since the coordinator is out, that will be game over for this match, technically.
Yep, I apologize. Anyways, congratulations to Team ES for taking the win of this match, because the court already made the escape. So with that, I just feel like Ivy in this map is way too hard, and especially against this Team Comp 2. So ES will be advancing to the 1-1 bracket, as BUN will be descending into the 0-2, meaning that they also are in a bad position. So here we're going to have a quick recap on the matches today. We have 2GT winning 6-3, WG winning 5-3, NE winning 8-1, and ES winning 8-1. So, we're going to probably see they're actually doing the draws for the matches right now. So let's skip and see what's the final results here. Okay, we have WYS for the FCMN, CC for the Sky, HLT for the 2GT, LS for the ES, WG for the GAO, NE for the MT, PBD for the TSF, and BUN for the WB. So this will be the matchup, and before we have it, I have a bit of announcement to make, is that the next 2 days, both Saturday and Sunday, will also have this tournament, but unfortunately I could not make it for Saturday and likely Sunday as well. So I will be restreaming it on Monday and Tuesday, likely to chase back the schedule, or maybe I will restream it later night at Sunday, and then Monday I will let you all know. So yeah, I guess that wraps up the end of today, Sin.
Yeah, that was a much more successful evening tonight with the less technical difficulties.
Yeah.
No overtimes as well.
No overtimes, and almost last time is making, and yesterday night is making me go crazy.
Yeah, yesterday night was tough for us, but at least now it's much smoother. And also the matches today were so interesting. I'm excited to see how the 0-2 teams are gonna play once they're on their last, like they have to pull out all the stops when it's their turn.
Yeah, definitely. We're going to be seeing more battle because any team right now can still advance or be eliminated, so it's still anyone's game. Anyways, I'm your caster, Invisible Joan, and joined by me is Sin, so this will be it for tonight, and I'll see y'all hopefully either Sunday or next Monday. Goodbye, everyone.